Why Jon Jones will dismantle Ciryl Gane. Jon Jones has a fight that's right around the corner against Ciryl Gane for his first time fighting at heavyweight. The last time we saw Jon was over 3 years ago, and he was fighting at a different weight class at light heavyweight. So the fact that he hasn't fought in 3 years and the fact that he's moving up to heavyweight certainly brings up a ton of questions and concerns. But in my opinion, I think Jon is going to absolutely dismantle Ciryl Gane. But quickly before we get the video started, for those of you who may not know, I'm Juicy MMA. I make opinionative MMA content, and if you guys enjoy videos similar to this, hit that subscribe button, that like button, and that post notification bell. But anyways, let's get into it. Over the years, Jon Jones has cemented himself as one of, if not the greatest fighters of all time. And in my opinion, if Jon's able to beat Ciryl and gain the heavyweight title, I don't think there's any dispute about it. I think Jon at that point would certainly be the greatest fighter of all time. What he was able to do throughout his career is just incredible. How dominant he was in basically all of his fights, excluding the last two. The fact that he truly never lost. The fact that he was fighting at a championship level basically throughout his entire career. Just incredible feats that he was able to accomplish. But although Jon has been so great, he does have a very talented fighter ahead of him. But before we break down this matchup between Jon and Ciryl, let's quickly look at Jon's game to see what he does well out there. So starting with his stand-up abilities, Jon is just fantastic. He has a really nice ability to throw that jab, right straight, uppercut, hook, cross, can switch stances whenever he wants. He has a tremendous ability to throw kicks, elliptical kicks to the legs, regular leg kicks, kicks to the body, kicks to the head. He has a very deep bag of techniques, and basically he can do everything out there. Now, one concern that I did have about Jon going up to heavyweight would be how does his speed translate over, and early on it seemed like Jon was pretty slow, to be honest, but at this point and more later, training footage that has come out has shown that Jon is actually pretty quick at heavyweight. So those concerns in my opinion have kind of disappeared. Now in terms of his chin, Jon has a tremendous chin, as we really saw that tested in the Gustafsson fight. But moving on to his ground game, this is certainly the best ability of Jon's game, and his stand-up ability was great. But in terms of his takedown ability, Jon has a great ability to take the fight to the ground, and once he takes it there, he's basically unstoppable. Jon does a really nice job at either looking to finish the fight with elbows and ground and pound shots, or looking for the submission. But whatever route Jon ends up deciding to take, he always plays it smart. He has a great mindset out there, and he always uses the mindset of position over submission. If a submission isn't there, Jon will be happy to stay on top and just pound his opponent out with elbows. Pause. But although Jon has a tremendous amount of skills and he has a tremendous amount of techniques that he does very effectively, probably the best thing about Jon's game is his fighting IQ. I don't think I've ever seen someone smarter out there than Jon Jones. It always seems like he knows exactly what to do, and even though someone has a ton of weapons, it doesn't mean they could be effective with them. But the fact that Jon always knows what to do and always knows what technique to go to really shows how smart he is out there. And that type of fighting IQ is the real reason for why he's been able to stay at the top for as long as he has been. But overall, from top to bottom, Jon is extremely versatile, and everywhere he is out there, he's extremely dangerous. But now let's move on to Ciryl Gane and see what he does well out there. So Ciryl has been a guy who's been extremely impressive ever since he got to the UFC. He already has impressive victories over guys like Derek Lewis as well as Tai Tuivasa, and even had an extremely close matchup against the former champ Francis Ngannou. But in terms of his stand-up ability, Ciryl is extremely impressive, and in my opinion, he's definitely the best stand-up fighter in the heavyweight division. In terms of his stand-up abilities, he has a really nice ability to throw that jab, that left to right straight, uppercut, hook, cross, has a great ability to switch stances, has a great ability to throw kicks to the legs, kicks to the body, and even kicks to the head. And overall, the real differentiating factor about Ciryl's stand-up abilities is not only does he have a lot of different techniques, and not only does he throw them with a decent amount of power, but he has a tremendous amount of speed. He moves out there like he's a welterweight, and he always has the speed advantage no matter who he's fighting at the heavyweight division. But his speed comes in handy even besides when he's offensive. He also is a really difficult guy to hit due to that great speed, but also due to his incredible footwork. We especially saw it in those two victories over Derek Lewis and Tai Tuivasa, more so in the Derek Lewis fight, where Derek just wasn't able to touch Ciryl. Ciryl was just way too quick, and his foot movement was just way too good for Derek to get Ciryl in any real trouble. And overall, in terms of his stand-up ability, Ciryl is very difficult to stand up with. Now, in terms of his ground game, Ciryl definitely doesn't have the best wrestling and definitely doesn't have the best jiu-jitsu, as we did see him get taken down by Francis Ngannou, who's not known for his ground game, but is a huge heavyweight. But nonetheless, Ciryl is not known for his ground game. One thing that I will say is he does have a pretty nice heel hook, but besides that, he doesn't do all that many things great on the ground. But now, let's break this fight down and let's get into my prediction for who I think is going to win this fight and why. Now, when you look at this matchup, it seems like Ciryl Gane would be the better stand-up fighter and Jon Jones would have a significant advantage on the ground. But one thing that I will say is I do think people are underestimating Jon's stand-up abilities. Now, I would agree that I think Ciryl is a better overall striker due to the fact that he's much quicker and he probably has more power. We're not sure. We haven't seen Jon at heavyweight, but most likely Ciryl would have the more power. But one thing that I also want to say is Jon has been a guy over the years that really enjoyed defeating his opponents at their own games. So Jon might look to strike out there with Ciryl to try to beat him at his own game. Now, at the end of the day, Jon is an extremely smart fighter out there, and if he sees that he's not having success with this stand-up, he's definitely going to look to take it to the ground and dominate from there. But early on, don't be surprised if we see Jon stand up with Ciryl and maybe even have some success. But overall, how I see this fight going is I think early on in the first round, Ciryl is going to have a lot of success on the feet, then Jon is going to have some success on the feet later on in the first round, and then in the second round, it's going to be a relatively close round. But in the second round, I think that's where Jon's really going to look to take the fight to the ground and either end it there or just ride to a decision. I think once the fight gets to the ground, if it does get there, Jon is just so much better than Ciryl, and due to the added size he's going to have at heavyweight, he's just going to be that much more difficult to deal with on the ground. Jon's going to be firing those elbows into Ciryl and maybe even looking for a finish that way, but if not, he's definitely just going to dominate on the ground and maybe even look for a submission and maybe even get it. Jon's just significantly better on the ground. But if Ciryl wants to win this matchup, of course he's going to need to work on his takedown defense and make sure he keeps the fight on the feet. If the fight's on the feet for the entire 5 rounds, I do still think Jon has a chance, but this would certainly be the best method of victory for Ciryl Gane. Really the only method of victory. He needs to keep the fight on the feet. But my official prediction for this matchup is I think Jon Jones is going to win this by a 3rd round submission. I think in the 2nd round, he's going to have ground control, he's going to fire in some ground strikes, certainly some elbows, and eventually in the 3rd round, he's going to tire Ciryl out enough to take the fight to the ground once again and find the submission. But I am extremely excited to see Jon Jones fight again, and overall, I'm really excited to see this matchup. I do think Ciryl has a ton of potential going forward, and I am extremely excited to see how he does against Jon Jones. But I guess only time will tell what does end up happening in this matchup. But anyways, let me know what you guys think in the comments. Do you think Jon Jones would be able to win this matchup against Ciryl, or do you think Ciryl will win? But anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and if you did enjoy, check one of these 2 videos popping up now, and until the next time, peace out guys.